This is Bloomberg Markets. I'm Amanda Lang alongside Matt Miller. And it was Matt Miller who conducted an interview about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, with a guest that said Bitcoin was going to 50,000, Matt. And at the time that seemed bonkers, even though it was already at 7, and that seemed bonkers to some. Now, of course, Bitcoin has surpassed that level. So the doubters are definitely in a dwindling camp, I guess we have to say, when it comes to Bitcoin and its value.
Yeah, but they remain. I say, Amanda, I started covering Bitcoin over 10 years ago, and people thought $1,000 was just a nutso target. When it did hit 1,000, I went for 2 weeks living on only Bitcoin. I didn't spend dollars for 2 weeks, and it worked out pretty well, but it came off that price. Everyone said, oh, that was a bubble. Then it went to 20,000 in 2017, and people thought the world has just lost its senses, came back down, and that's when Antoni told me at around 7 grand it would hit 50,000. Now it has. Let's bring him on. Antoni Trenchev, co-founder and managing partner of Nexo. You now have, Antoni, $5 billion of assets under management. You have a big Bitcoin lending business. And the interesting thing is, you have to admit this is at least a rubber bubble, right? There is a lot of volatility and has been historically in Bitcoin. Isn't it difficult to run a business with that kind of volatility?
Well, not in the past year, at the very least. But kidding aside, it is the best performing asset on any significant timeline, whether it's 1 year or 5 years or 10 years, it's the best performing asset. So it is a matter of having the right perspective when investing in Bitcoin. And that's how we build out our business very conservatively. We lend only a loan to value ratio of 50%, precisely because of its volatility. And we structured the business that thrives in both bull and bear markets.
I'm going to keep myself in the doubters camp, just to out myself to both of you and the world here. My concern with Bitcoin is it's impossible to know how to value it other than what the next guy is willing to pay for it, which always gives you pause. Now, the counter argument often offered up, Antoni, is that's the same as gold. The JP Morgan call on Bitcoin,
or the dollar.
146,000. Or the dollar, I guess. Well, let's not go there. That JP Morgan call, though, was predicated on the idea that Bitcoin would trade like gold. Do you think it's still going to go there, that it'll be treated the same way that gold is treated?
I think that actually Bitcoin is a better version of gold because it has the necessary characteristics, scarcity, a fixed finite amount. With Elon Musk taking us to Mars, apparently there's a bunch of gold there, so we might see some, inflationary pressures on gold. But I do think that Bitcoin is actually a better version because next time you travel to Europe, try bringing $1 million in gold versus the same amount in Bitcoin. It's much better in so many ways. So I think we're going to see outflows from gold into crypto, and it is a totally new asset class, like something like we've never seen before, and it's here to stay.
And Antoni, I'm going to push back a little bit against that because, I was thinking the other day when this Arctic frost came down from the Great Concavity and shut down Texas, you'd rather have gold in that kind of situation than Bitcoin, right? I mean, especially if the cell phone network goes down, you're not going to be able to buy anything with your ones and zeros, unless, of course, you just remembered them off the top of your head. Isn't there a situation, isn't there an argument to be made for gold when when push really comes to shove, when you have to grab your bug out bag?
Well, I am a gold bug, have been for the better part of the past decade, but you got to consider the counter argument, and it is that if you invested $1 in gold a year ago, you have about $1.70. If you invested $1 in Bitcoin 10 years ago, you have around $25 million right now.
I guess the other side of this argument, and I know where Matt's going with that, it's not just gold you want to own in that scenario, it's gold coins, so you can actually go buy things with them. That's called the end of the world trade. It only works once. In terms of the cryptocurrencies, here's my real question for you is, why do we need digital currencies other than the digital currencies that we have? I haven't touched a paper dollar bill or $5 bill and I don't know how long. Everything I do is digital. It just happens to be the one that my central bank manages and my bank manages for me. What's the purpose of a cryptocurrency other than for use, as our central bank said in Canada recently, on the dark web for fraudulent activity, all of the reasons we know people like it?
Well, first of all, the number one choice for money launderers in the criminal syndicate is the dollar. So there's no beating around the bush around that fact. But more importantly, we need crypto, and in particular Bitcoin, because there are 3,000 other cryptocurrencies which we're not super excited about. But what sets apart Bitcoin is the fact that precisely your central bank cannot print it at will. And this is something that we've seen being done on a massive scale last year. I think close to $8 trillion have been printed, and you can feel the creeping inflation. It's palpable everywhere. I was in London some time ago, and I paid for the exact same meal that I paid as a student 10 years ago, twice the pound value. So it's obvious in this inflationary macro pump money printing environment that people will be searching for alternatives. And Bitcoin is our generation's gold, and it's obviously that we millennials, the next generation to be the main driver of the economic cycle, are taking such an interest in Bitcoin in particular.
I say it's a good point on the dollar, right? More hitmen, drug dealers, evil dictators have been paid in dollars than any other currency. The inflation argument, though, I wonder if that can come and bite you back, Antoni. I mean, if we start to see it, retail spending was off the hook today. If we start to see the Fed get worried and go the other direction, does that mean Bitcoin, does the air get let out? Do we all of a sudden see it drop down to 30,000, 20,000, 15?
We could very well see a correction of 50%, and that wouldn't have an effect on the long-term bull market of Bitcoin. Like 30,000, that was a month ago, and now it will have to crash almost in half to get there. About Bitcoin, it's really taking the right time horizon. You have to have some, because of its potential and the way it has performed historically. But also caution is advised at these levels where the total market cap of Bitcoin is above $1 trillion. You don't put your kids' funds, college funds, all at once in Bitcoin, because there are some inherent dangers. So right now, I'm not super excited about particular price levels. Like last time when I told you 50,000, I am watching right now the feeling, the market that it's giving me, how it's reacting. It's at 75,000, which would be the next logical stops. What's the leverage and the credit in the system, and what's the overall exuberance of the market participants? And this will tell us where Bitcoin is going next.
When you made that $50,000 call, you said by the end of the year. What's your time frame on 75,000, Antoni?
I haven't brought my crypto crystal ball today. I think that we are accelerating towards 75,000 right now, and it's really going to be a question of how it reacts there. Ultimately, I think we're going to go much, much higher. 100K is very realistic in the next 12 to 18 months, but it is not going to be as smooth as a ride as my last year's prediction, simply because of the fact that a lot of people are calling it right now. And last time we talked about it, it was just me and Matt who, were even considering such scenarios. And the markets never do what everyone is expecting them. So caution again.
All right, Andy, we'll get our 100,000 hats ready. Amanda, we'll get you one too, even if you're a doubter.
Absolutely.
Maybe it'll be 100,000 Canadian dollars. Antoni Trenchev, great to have you with us. Appreciate it. Antoni Trenchev, CEO of Nexo. One other space that